Hi everyone, welcome to week 4. This week we'll look at the power dynamics in community work as a subset to society in general. You'll understand the relationship between trust, power, and caring, and see how it's important to your practice and community work. We'll look at power as a prominent feature in all aspects of human society and how it relates to community services. We'll look at different types of power in general and specific to society and organizations as well. So power unchecked in community creates power imbalance, and in helping profession, this is a serious issue. And when that happens, we need to look at how we can address it as well. So the concept of social justice, has been extremely important and also driving aspiration as well for community services. The pursuit of social justice is embedded in our ethical codes. It's embedded in our practical standards, and in all community services, social work, and helping professional literature around the world. Um, Generally, the social work and community services can be considered as an organized attempt at addressing social justice. It is based on the concepts of human rights and equality, and its core of our work, and has always remained the central part of our work mission since those services started. So, what is social justice? The modern concept of social justice, is it's a recent idea in the long history about justice in general. Community work, social work has had a focus on social justice since its inception through the work for poor, disadvantaged, and communities in general. Um, so there's various meanings, contested meanings and interpretations to social justice. Um, you know, um, what we need to remember is that it's an important part of our work, and it's also been extremely important in development of our values as well in community services. So when you look at the application, how it's been conceptualized into a work code of ethics, and community services, promotes justice and social fairness by helping to reduce barriers in society and also to expand choice and you availability of potential for all people in the society. But we do focus on people who are very vulnerable, disadvantaged, oppressed, or people who have exceptional needs. Community service work or community workers also advocate change to social systems and structures that continue to protect inequality and injustice. And they oppose and work to eliminate violation of human rights, uh, you know, uh, protect civil and political rights, and allow advancement of economic, social, cultural rights to disadvantaged people in the society. So, social justice aspect in community services encourages community participation in societal process and disadvantage having a say in decisions in the development and implementations as well associated with social policies. So as part of your tutorial activity, I advise you to sit down and write about what you see as injustice in the community, both for you and for the rest of the mankind. Um, in the breakout groups, you can combine or compare the notes with other students in your group. And I can assure you that there's going to be quite a list. When we brainstorm, that list will grow. Um, and um, and most common response to this, from my experience, is to call for justice. And justice itself has a connotation that something is good is deserved. Um, you know, and when you look at human laws, it's based on the idea that um, idea of goodness as a moral ideal. So when you look at justice as well, um, there's two concepts as well. There's distributive justice, which has to do with fairness of the citizenry of a state, and redistributive, retributive justice has to do with making things right as after the fact that there's been a violation. Um, and this is something that one needs to explore. Um, and whatever injustice is, it comes down to basic human rights and human dignity. Um, you know, and as community service workers, we are bound to seek and restore dignity for our clients. We're also bound to ensure safeguarding their human rights as well, including freedom and well-being. You probably believe, adhere to some kind of ethical theories, maybe utilitarian ethics or your duty ethics. May make sense of this as well. Um, and the intent as well, where the person human rights values are protected as well. And also to protect and enact social justice. You also need to, in some cases, empower the client as well. Empowerment instills confidence in clients who have esteem issues, who have been marginalized, and who've been discriminated. So when you engage with the client, you help them in providing support, treating them with respect, and also remodeling structures of society, and treat them with fairness and dignity and with respect. It's important that you understand power and community services. Anyone in helping position is in a position of power by the virtue of the fact that they're giving support to those who need it. So this makes the client vulnerable in many degrees. So we need to recognize the vulnerability from ethical, moral, political, practical perspectives as well. And that's why we have codes that protect clients and check that power imbalance. So we looked at boundaries last week. We talked about boundary violations. We have capacity to set boundaries in a professional practice. And those boundaries need to be set, or boundaries need to be set, exist between public, private, political, personal, external, internal being as well. So what is power to you? So power basically is the ability to influence or control behavior of another person. So the individual power differs on an individual basis. based on communicated dimensions in society, such as age, social status, appearance, gender, rank, position. So when power is not addressed properly, it can lead to imbalance, and that can be very disruptive in community services. So there are multitude types of power, and when you look at the theories associated with power, they address in order of potency. So for your tutorial activity, you might want to write about how you relate to people who you perceive as more powerful than you, and how you relate to people who are less powerful than you. So you might want to think about clients as well that you might have worked with who have been powerful or disempowered, and your relationships and thoughts about them. Then you might want to write down what you believe is most disempowering issues of those clients that have brought them to see you in community services. You might also want to write down empowering techniques as well, which you are aware. Now, there are bases of power, and different theories talk about different bases of um, power. So, when you look at the basis of power, some of the common ones are coercive power, reward power, legitimative power, expert power, referent power, information power. So, legitimate power is a positional power. So, this is a state where others believe that you have the right to influence or control their behaviors because of your position within a group or organization. That can be a case manager, manager of casework services, caseworker, or specialist caseworker. The referent power is the ability to attract others to the degree they want to be like you or be loyal to you. Expert power is based on the knowledge or the expertise you have and the dependency of those who rely on your expertise. Reward power is where the power resides in your ability to provide others with valued rewards for doing what you wish them to do. And coercive power is actually a negative power where you use force to create fears in others. Uh, and these fears can be about punishment or withholding of what they desire. There's also information power as well. We call this persuasive power in social work. Is where we have power through our communication skills or the information we hold in the community. Now, I have uploaded another video link onto the portal. My advice to you is to watch this video. Um, and after you watch the video, come back and discuss this in your tutorial activity with your lecturer. It's a fascinating video. It was shot in the 70s, but it highlights the paradox of power. How systems, if unchecked, can create a power imbalance in the society. It's important to remember that we bring certain power relationships into our work in community service or social services, um, with us, and also we discovered that there's also certain types of power relationships that are already there by created by institutions or the nature of a work as well. Uh, like all human life, it there's a difference in rank as well. Um, the difference in gender, ethnicity, class, age, income, sexuality, in terms of disability, they're all signifiers of the imbalance in the power. Difference in rank can also inflict emotional wounds for the client too, and then they can bring that into community services, and they can also be reenacted as well with you. Um, and uh, and whether we've inherited our rank or earned it, that creates and organizes much of our communication behavior as well, um, in society. And one of the features as well in the power imbalance in community services, that we are quite unconscious of our own rank and the power we have, um, and we need to recognize this reality, and act with care towards the client. And the clients as well who come into community services have different expectations as well, depending on the social and cultural context, and that gives us a path, uh, and that can also be seen as a difference in rank as well. Um, so when they come to see you, they identify that they are disadvantaged, um, and um, and this can create an intensity, of difference, perhaps even hostility as well. Uh, and us as workers also have different expectations of our clients depending on the differences of setting, their background, rank, related other dimensions as well. Um, yeah. So the different types of part and community work have uh, embedded as well, that we may be consciously or unconsciously aware of, and sorry, unconsciously and aware of as well. It's something to pay attention to, and reflect on our interactions with our client almost daily. The other aspect of redressing power imbalance in society and in our work is to you know be aware of the language as an instrument of power. Um, you know, Language, or in general communication, and how we use it is an extremely important factor in our relationship to others. Um, and one of the self-imposed barriers from our client's side to having a clear communication, expressing their needs in relationship, can manifest through their disadvantage, which kind of impacts on the lack of conviction or self-critical behavior. As saying, uh, I can't give an opinion. I haven't had much success in life. Or they tend to use more of insecure words, such as perhaps, maybe, positive, possibly. They may hesitate as well when they speak. Um, and we need to recognize this, uh, individually, with clients. But on a deeper philosophical level, we also need to understand that language contains, you know, history of the disadvantaged persons or their culture's idea, and it can have built-in assumptions as well. So these assumptions can limit how people see different objects and experiences as well. So, for example, the terms such as housewife or chairman or primitive culture or mentally unwell, mentally ill, all contain and they perpetuate assumptions which kind of help to maintain inequalities in society, with societies of women, ethnic minorities, and people who have mental illness. So even the word mental illness contains assumption that having a problem is an illness. So when you look at social constructionists, um, they believe that terms like these are powerful constructions which have become accepted as truth, reality, shaping our thinking and belief. Now, Foucault, a philosopher, argued that language was an instrument of power, and social constructionists agree. They believe that language defines power because discourse is about language. Those with more sophisticated language, with accepted accents and specialist knowledge contained in different types of language, such as scientific and medical languages, control the dominant discourses that shape a society. It's also, from an ethical perspective, it's important to remember that through language, we divide the world up into conceptual categories. So remember that language in our society is always evolving, and we are making attempts as well to make it more inclusive, or commonly labeled as political correctness. So your as community workers, your goal is to empower your clients, and one of the ways you can achieve this is by role modeling the use of language and the history. We're going to look at culture, um, working with the diverse population, and how we can address your responsibility as a community worker to develop a competency in diversity through personal responsibility and awareness of cultural and diverse context or cultural context that you'll face with diverse population. And that'll be your client base. Now, when you look at society, most first world countries are now very rich in diversity and multiculturalism. Australia, it's considered to be multicultural society, and you as community workers will be dealing with many clients from different backgrounds to you. You'll need to gain a deeper understanding of the traditions and the needs of the clients from other cultures and work with them appropriately. You'll also need to grasp another worldview as well that may transcend and expand also on the one you have um, grown up with as well. So, working with clients from diverse background both has clinical and ethical implication as well. Um, when you look at the evolution of um, culture, awareness of cultural values, historically we've seen significant change in the last 40, 50 years to what we had seen for around 200 years of um, social development in the European context. So one of the first competencies, is to work towards overcoming your personal biases and cultural tunnel vision. Uh, so in order to work with clients from other cultures, it's important to expand your own knowledge and develop these new competencies. So what does multicultural competency include? They include the awareness of your own cultural values and biases as well. You need to recognize the the worldview of the culturally different client and develop appropriate cultural intervention strategies as well in relation to the client. So we need to reflect on our own personality styles as well. How it impacts when we work with others. So, we might want to reflect that whether we have different moral beliefs in those of our client, whether it's equivalent to us not being competent to work with client effectively. Um, and we might want to reflect on how our experiences growing up has helped or hindered in working with clients who are of different culture. So it's through constant reflection and having a greater awareness of how cultural injustice is perpetuated, we can develop our own competency. So moving on, cultural competence is an application of culturally appropriate interventions and practices. So it involves knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values um, that are necessary for effective intercultural transactions with diverse social, cultural, and organizational contexts. So it is a continuous process. So development of cultural competence is a continuous process. You know, and culturally competent assessment um, needs to reflect on client's worldview, understanding of his or her problem, client's family background, cultural identity, and whether there's any cultural factors as well associated with their psychosocial and environmental functioning, and cultural elements as well in their engagement between you and them, and an overall cultural assessment. Now, in Australia, very likely to come across working with the indigenous population as well. So your engagement with them needs to be considered, from a wider context as well. They, indigenous people in Australia, working with them without prior understanding of indigenous culture um, will not be successful. So, you need to have a clear overview of the history of oppression as well, with the indigenous culture and the the implication of that historical oppression on that particular individual, indigenous individual who is sitting in front of you. Um, so there's various protocols and principles as well for um, working with culturally and linguistically diverse clients. I have uploaded some resource list onto the portal. Hope you find them useful. There's also 4-minute video on the portal. I advise you to watch the videos, um, and it highlights you know the discrimination people who have disabilities go through. And lastly, um, as a community worker, you need to have capacity and competency to deal with rich diversity of clients. And one of the major segments and application is the ability to appreciate the importance of non-discrimination, um, acceptance, and understanding when working with clients who present with lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or intergender issues. So, what I would advise you is to, reflect on um, discrimination and acceptance as well. You know, if you find it a challenge to work with clients with sexual diversity, um, you know, um, as I mentioned before, um, to work with others whose values and behaviors differ from yours can be a challenge, but we need to reflect on our interaction. You know, I advise you to reflect on the notion of discrimination. Um, you know, um, remember, when we're all not perfect beings. Each of us have our likes and dislikes. We can be discriminating with our taste. We can be also we can be um, um, when we discriminate towards others, whether clients or non-clients, we need to ask ourselves the value of our judgments and opinions. We need to reflect on where they fit with our moral compass, and how do they fit with your or our projected future as workers in helping profession. You know, um, you also need to reflect on the notion of acceptance as well in all aspects of our helping relationship with client. It's the attitude of acceptance. It's extremely important competence to have. Accepting doesn't necessarily mean you agree with your client. You know, it's only that you're able to, with your knowledge, training, and experience, to see that this is how they perceive the world in the present state. So now that you've listened to the lecture, I advise you to go and participate in the tutorial activity, and um, also watch the videos that are uploaded in the portal. Thank you.